And welcome back to another episode of Hello, Ladies, where feminism meets pro wrestling. I am your hostess with the mostest. I am solo casting today. It's been crazy. It has been crazy. So 2 weeks ago now, didn't podcast because my dog Cheddar was attacked by a groundhog. Thankfully, he is fine. He's still very surprised that what he thought was friend shaped turned out to be something that would jump out to his face and kick the shit out of him. And so then I was also quite ill, as was Megan. So and then this week yesterday was my birthday. So there's just been a lot going on. But I did last week on Friday, I went to Comic-Con. And the thing about New York Comic-Con is, well, it's 4 days, and there's like you can get like a sprinkling of wrestling every day. Fridays tend to be the wrestling day. And that's how it's been for years now. So that's generally when I try to aim to go. And this year was no different. Like that's when AEW had their panel, and there were quite a few people to meet out on the floor. So on the showroom floor. You can do meet and greets at booths. I recommend doing that rather than the ones Comic-Con sets up because those just like cycle you through real fast. But yes, so I got to Comic-Con and I hauled my booty over to Pro Wrestling Tees, and their booth. Why? Um, well, they had at the time that I got there, it was Harley Cameron and RJ City that were there for autographs and signings or and pictures. Autographs and signings are the same thing. So, and then like later on, like Willow was going to be there and Orange Cassidy. And I've met Orange Cassidy before, but I'd never met Willow, so I came back for her as well. But I started off with Miss Harley Cameron, who was wonderful. I didn't realize she's like my height. I am 5'2". I thought she was taller. I assume the world is taller than me. So that is definitely part of it. But super sweet. She was lovely. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, like going to conventions or like just interacting with wrestlers in general, whether male or female, if you are a female wrestling fan, is very different than, because like you watch dudes and how they interact. It's so different, like how we are treated in a positive way. At least that has always been my experience. So, um, Harley was lovely, chit chat for a little bit, and then I popped over to RJ, who is right next to Harley, which I love that they had the two of them out at the same time because if you don't know, Harley and RJ just they bicker and whatnot for the enjoyment of all of us. Highly recommend watching that Hey EW episode with the two of them. Harley is just a peach, and RJ funny as always. Um, but RJ was super nice. I asked him about his cat. I was like really stuck on the cat thing. Sylvia is like an elderly kitty, and I hadn't watched his YouTube show in a while, so I wasn't sure if Kitty was still around. And I don't know, that like thought got just stuck in my head. But speaking of like my estimates of how tall people are completely off, like I knew RJ was taller than me. Like I saw his height. But let's be real, like oftentimes wrestlers are billed at um taller heights than what they are. Just like men on dating apps. So I was shocked because I was wearing platformed boots. Like, well, I shouldn't say platform, but they had like there was a heel to them. They were like a chunky combat boot, covered in bedazzledness. RJ was still like a solid foot taller than me. Like that man is tall. And like I knew looking up at him that that was the case, but when I saw the picture of us next to each other, like it is clearly like a full foot. Like I looked like I should have been like, please. So there was that. Um, oh, and I just realized I didn't explain this. I'm in the midst of moving things around. There will be next week a new view for all of you. Um, but right now this is a curtain with like an actual window behind it, but it's too freaking bright to open. So this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing right now. It is what it is. Also, the snoring, as always, is chitter. Um, if you can even hear that on this mic. Anyhow, I had mentioned to RJ like what I had said to you all that like I love that they have you guys out here like together. How fun. As I'm like walking away and he's like, wait a minute. And then he pulls Harley over for us to do a photo with me and the two of them. Um but as we're about to do that, Shane, the Hurricane Helms, walks by and is like chit-chatting to them. And I was like, oh, is this like, you know, like, are these conventions kind of fun? Because you get to see people that maybe you don't get to see all the time. And he was like, you know, we're usually at different booths, so it's a little hard, but, it can be type of thing. But I did get a photo with RJ and Harley together, which was lovely. Um, and then I did wrap back around when Willow was coming out. She had quite the line, as she should. Let's be real. Willow is a perfect little human being. And I say like one of the things like she is stunning in like on TV, but like absolutely stunning in person. And like I was just like blown away. Like whatever you think her energy is like, that's what it's exactly like in person. She was just delightful. And I did tell her that she is the patron saint of the podcast. And she said that it was the biggest honor that she has. So, love that. Yes. I also and several people comment and compliment me on my ridiculous dinosaur dress. I would show you also the autographs, but I've already framed them and they're up on my wall. And I'm just not doing all that today. Yeah. But I did. And while I was also in line to see Willow, Miss Little Bambi walked by. So I got to chat with her for like a brief second because I was like next in line. And unfortunately we weren't able to meet up later at the con, but she is just a gem as well. Follow her if you're not already on the socials. Especially if you like wrestling and anime. Like that is her niche, that is her jam. She's a delightful human. I did also um so Pro Wrestling Tees was in like the fourth, like they were all the way at the end. Like there's close to 5,000 vendors at Comic-Con. It's a lot. So they were 4,000 like 600 something for Pro Wrestling Tees. On the all the way on the other side of the showroom floor, there is this alley that always has wrestlers and also always has this tea company that I like. So I shimmied over there. My friends were not there yet. So and when doing that, I saw that Karrion Kross and Scarlett were there. So I picked up his book and it felt weird having them both sign the book because like she obviously didn't write this. I felt like it maybe I should have had her sign something else, but I didn't. They both just signed this. I have quite a nice collection going now of wrestling books that have been signed. Obviously, like I do Sabrina reviews wrestling books. I'm sorry if Dad have sees this. I better do the whole thing. Sabrina reviews wrestling books. There we go. But I have now taken up an entire shelf on like my big bookshelf of wrestling books and have expanded outward from there. So, I have, I think, almost every book ever written by a wrestler or, um, yeah, probably. There's very few that I don't have. And it's because like some of them I read from the library, like Eddie Guerrero's, for example. So I don't have that physical copy, but um that's just an example. But yes. And it turned out to be very handy to have this because I read it a little bit on the train leaving. So, um, but Scarlett and Carrion were both lovely. She was wearing these like insane boots, and I was just like, oh my God, how in the world is she gonna manage in those shoes all day? But they had a chair for her. So, um, but both super nice. I don't think she realized that like I'm their age because when she was writing my name in there, she was like, Sabrina, so were you named after the Audrey Hepburn movie or the show like Sabrina the Teenage Witch? That show came out when I was in middle school. So definitely not that, but also not the movie. My mom actually named me, like pulled my name from the Bible. I don't know. I don't know. Apparently there's a Sabrina in there. I don't. That's what my mother said. I like my name. I have no problem with it. So whatever. Um, maybe I should just start lying though and telling people it was the Audrey Hepburn movie. I will say I loved that movie as a kid and also the remake with Harrison Ford in like the 90s. I loved them both because I had my name. Um, Even though like I should not have been allowed to watch those movies at the age that I was allowed to, which is a common theme throughout my childhood, if I'm being honest. Um, like when I was in kindergarten, my two favorite movies were The Little Mermaid and Pretty Woman. You know, the movie about a hooker, Lady of the Night. Hooker was what they used in Pretty Woman. So I'm gonna stick with that. I would not describe. It's weird because, like, out of the context of that specific movie, I would never use the term hooker. I just realized that, unless it's someone who is like a crocheter or something. There's a lot of punny things with that. Anyway, back to Comic-Con. Um, After meeting up with it, I grabbed like some nourishment and skedaddled myself out, or up rather to there was a panel, an AEW panel. And let me just when we got in, that's when Priscilla and Tyler, I got to see them. They got to the show or to Comic-Con and then and I got to sit with them, which was great. And got up pretty close. I also saw my friends Kate and Pete from college. They know nothing about wrestling and are always looking at me like, Kate specifically, like, what the hell does wrestling have to do with comics? And, well, you see this? Wrestling fans know there are comics that are about wrestling or incorporate wrestlers. And DC is coming out with a run of some, and this is like a sneak preview. Had I been going Saturday, they were going to get like allow you to get these autographed because by the time the panel happened, all the wrestlers were done for the day. But on the panel were like the illustrator and the one who came up with the story for this from DC. But then you also, like wrestler wise, had Swerve Strickland, Orange Cassidy, Willow, Tony Khan, and John Moxley. And Moxley's like interview style, I love because he just does this like I kind of almost think he's playing into it at this point, like this deer in the headlights moment where he's like, "You're talking to me?" And then he answers. Um, but there was one thing because I read John Moxley's book. He was asked who his first hero was as a kid, and like he was like taking forever to answer. And I looked at person, I was like, I read that book. It's his dad. It's his dad. And he eventually gave that answer, but I was like, okay. Um, but it was a great panel. You may have seen on Dynamite, Darby Allin did interject himself and then smash Moxley in the head with a glass pitcher. Um, and RJ had to get involved. But yeah, the panel itself was great. Orange Cassidy stayed in character like the whole time. And the deal with DC Comics is I think they said it's going to be a two-issue run and the wrestlers are all teaming up with different superheroes. And I remember Willow is teamed up with Wonder Woman, which perfect pairing there. Um but you can see there's some different people in here. There's uh like they're really well done. Like Mercedes Monet is like this is perfect gear. You would think though by that she'd be the one teamed up with Wonder Woman, but no, nay nay. Um, but yeah, a lot of these are really really good. Um, like depictions. The one that I had like criticism for is John Moxley's kind of like if you're watching this kind of looks like a mixture of him and Claudio a little bit. But yeah, everybody else is pretty good. And I um went through and looked at this. I'm excited. I'm going to talk to my local comic shop and tell them to let me know when these drop so I can get them. And this is going back in its protective little sleeve now. Doot doot doot. But that was my wrestling time at Comic-Con. I always love it. The day goes by so fast. Like I know what I said doesn't seem like necessarily a lot, but I was there probably from noon to like 6:30. That sounds like 6:30. And then we went to a little coffee shop that was on the way back to the train station. But was doing like a Nightmare Before Christmas thing that was advertised at Comic-Con. It I got the best pumpkin latte I've ever had in my entire freaking life there. Um, but it was not as Nightmare Before Christmassy as I would like. I'm pretty hardcore about that though. If you don't know, I do have a zero tattoo. Um, but yeah, and full disclosure, I will be missing at least the live showing. I'll probably watch it on Sunday of Wrestle Dream because that's when my birthday party is gonna be. And I'm gonna have like 30 plus people in my house. So that's in large part why there's been a lot of rearranging. I have to move Cheddar's crate from the living room into my office. So the podcast, probably until January is going to be filmed in my living room, which is fine. Um, but it won't be like the wrestling backdrop that I've had, or the curtains with the lights. It'll, you'll like it. It's good. It's good. I go all out for the holidays. So, but yes, so there, we will be talking about Russell Dream next week's podcast. Um, Also, full disclosure, I really haven't been watching too much WWE. It's just politically too much at this point. Like, I Triple H and Stephanie keep showing up at the White House and when I do watch it tends to be like I'll just watch the women's stuff and like fast forward through everything else. I do stop on Penta though because I mean I just love Penta. Like there's a couple people I'll stop on who aren't just the female wrestlers, but um it sucks like because there's a lot of wrestlers in that company that I really enjoy, but like it's so disheartening now. Like I and plus like I'm not I'm going to have to get a VPN because I'm not paying for ESPN and then paying a fee on top of that. Fuck that. So, um, yeah, I'll get around to doing that. What's probably going to motivate me is like Survivor Series because they'll do war games and I love that. So I'll figure it out by then. But yeah, until then, like I still catch TNA stuff. And AEW is probably going to be the one I watch with a regularity for a while. Which is but like I've been a WWE fan. That's what got me into wrestling, right? Which a lot of us, that's what got us into wrestling, right? Um, and I watched through the shit years, like which we all know when those were. And it's not necessarily the wrestler's fault on that. But like, yeah, just it feels weird to be not necessarily bowing out, but just taking like a little step back when they're at a height. And it's has nothing to do with who their champions are. I really enjoy I love their rosters, with very few exceptions. Logan Paul. So that's yeah, it's just hard. Like it like morally hard at this point to watch that product and um yeah, and also like they've made it difficult to watch with the ESPN deal. So um yeah, probably gonna do a VPN and then um let me know if it's better to say that you're in like Canada or England or Scotland or something. But let me know and I'll do that. But I also now am gonna be running off to Sleepy Hollow for a spooky adventure. I'm doing a cemetery tour by candlelight, the murder and mayhem one. I had to like stalk the shit out of the page, and when they went on sale because those disappear real quick. Um, but yes, we'll be back next week. Megan should be with me. Um, life keeps happening to folks, which happens, right? Like, so, um, you might have some weeks where it's just me or me and a special guest. Meep, meep. But we're gonna keep on trucking. Hopefully, no more groundhog attacks or anything like that. But let's do our outro. And us, I mean moi. In the name of our Lord and Savior, Willow Nightingale, the babe with the power of voodoo, hoodoo, you do. Nothing matters. Smile anyway.